Okay, welcome to the deep dive. Today we're heading north, way up north, to Alaska, a place known for, well, just vast wilderness, right?
Absolutely. Stunning
But
landscapes.
it's more than just scenery. Alaska is packed with natural resources. I mean, energy, minerals, timber, seafood. It's all there.
A huge potential wealth.
And that's our focus today. We're diving deep into one specific source, an executive order, signed January 20th, 2025.
Okay.
It's titled Unleashing Alaska's Extraordinary Resource Potential. So our mission is pretty clear.
Yeah.
Break down what this order actually says, what policies does it change, what are the goals, straight from the text.
Got it. And it's worth noting executive orders like this are they're significant. They're direct orders from the president to federal agencies.
Right, they tell agencies how to operate, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. They carry the force of law unless, challenged in court. And this one sounds pretty focused on Alaska's resources specifically.
Okay, let's jump in then. The order kicks off with some background, setting the stage. What's the main problem it claims to be solving?
Well, the source document lays out its argument right away. It states Alaska has this enormous natural wealth, but it sees it as largely untapped.
Untapped potential.
Precisely. And the core idea, the order's argument, is that unlocking this wealth is good for everyone, for the nation's prosperity, economic security, even national security. It actually lists specific benefits they expect, things like price relief for Americans, job creation, helping the trade balance.
Boosting energy supply, too.
Yes, increasing global energy supply, and interestingly, reducing the leverage other countries might have using energy as a weapon.
Those are definitely broad national goals. And the language in that opening, it's quite strong, isn't it? It talks about ending an assault on Alaska's sovereignty.
It does, and reversing punitive restrictions it blames on the previous administration.
So it's framing previous policies very negatively.
Right. The order explicitly says the policies it's overturning were actively targeting resource development, hurting Alaska's ability to develop responsibly. That's the justification it provides for the policy changes that follow. It's setting a clear narrative.
Okay, so with that context, what are the main policy goals then? Section 2 lays these out, right? What's the fundamental direction here?
Yes, Section 2 outlines the core policy. It's essentially 4 key things, according to the text. First, fully use Alaska's lands and resources for the nation and for Alaskans. Second, efficiently maximize resource development and production. That's on both federal and state land.
Maximize development. Yeah.
Third, speed up permitting and leasing. Make it faster for energy and resource projects. And fourth, a specific focus. Prioritize Alaska's liquefied natural gas, LNG.
LNG. That keeps coming up.
Yes, prioritize its development, including sales within the U.S. and specifically to Pacific allies.
Okay, so the message is crystal clear. More development, faster development, especially LNG.
That's the stated policy direction.
Now, Section 3. This seems to be where the real action is, the specifics. Directing individual agencies. It feels like a cascade of reversals.
Precisely. It starts broad, telling all relevant departments, Interior, Commerce, Army Corps, to use their authority to basically undo things.
And undo what specifically?
Any actions taken between January 20, 2021 and January 20, 2025, the prior 4 years that conflict with this new policy, they're told to rescind, revise, or grant exemptions. It's a systematic review and reversal.
Wow. And it hits that LNG point again.
It does. Specifically mentions the Alaska LNG project, telling agencies to consider its economic and national security benefits when looking at permits.
Okay, that LNG priority is consistent. Let's dig into the Department of the Interior. That section looks packed. This is where ANWR and MPRA come in, right?
Yes, the details for Interior are really extensive, and it names specific orders and documents to be changed. It's quite granular.
Okay, let's take the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge Coastal Plain first. ANWR, big topic.
Right. The order tells the Interior Secretary to withdraw a specific secretarial order, number 3401 from June 2021, which had halted oil and gas activities there.
So reversing a halt.
Yes. And it says to rescind recent lease cancellations unless they somehow fit the new policy. And, crucially, initiate additional leasing and issue all the permits needed for development.
So actively opening it up again and undoing recent steps to stop that. It even targets specific environmental reviews.
Exactly. Environmental impact statements, or EIS, are key. The order says rescind a supplemental EIS from November 2024 and its resulting record of decision, or ROD, from December 2024.
To get rid of the latest environmental analysis.
And instead, reinstate an older final EIS from September 2019 and its ROD from August 2020. It's literally swapping out the environmental documents for older ones seen as more favorable to drilling.
Okay, that's very specific. What about the National Petroleum Reserve, NPRA?
Similar approach there. It targets recent management rules. It directs the rescission of a May 2024 final rule and a July 2024 notice about special areas within NPRA.
Those are areas with conservation focus.
Generally, yes. And it also directs rescission of guidance from January 2025 about protecting subsistence uses, traditional hunting and gathering.
And like ANWR, does it bring back older rules for NPRA?
Yes, it directs reinstatement of a 2017 Secretarial Order 3352 and a December 2020 Integrated Activity Plan ROD. That plan is like the master guide for managing NPRA.
So again, replacing recent plans with older ones.
It also puts a temporary hold on and orders a review of an April 2022 NPRARA citing legal issues. But the clear push seems to be towards those older reinstated plans.
What about infrastructure? You mentioned roads.
Yes, the AMLA Road project, that's a proposed industrial access road to a mining area. The order puts a temporary hold and review on a June 2024 decision for it, again citing alleged legal deficiencies.
And reinstates an older decision.
Reinstates a joint ROD from July 2020. And it also specifically directs agencies to speed up development of a road between Kinko's and the Cold Bay Airport. Access is key for resources, but roads have impacts, of course.
Huge impacts, potentially. It also mentions hunting, fishing, subsistence. That's vital in Alaska.
Absolutely central. The order directs the National Park Service to rescind a July 2024 rule that restricted hunting and trapping in national preserves.
And bring back an older rule.
And reinstate a June 2020 rule. It also tells interior bureaus to consider the cultural significance of these activities, recognize the priority of subsistence under ANLCA.
That's the big Alaska Lands Act, right?
The Alaska National Interest Lands Conservation Act, yes. It tells them to consult with the state and ensure federal opportunities align with state ones, addressing local access concerns.
Then there's native lands and general land management.
Right. An immediate review is ordered for guidance on taking Alaska Native lands into trust, and also lands selected by Native corporations under ANCSA, the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act.
To ensure consistency with those big land laws.
Exactly. Statehood Act, ANLCA, ANCSA. It also cancels a recent Central Yukon Resource Management Plan from November 2024, reinstating a draft from December 2020. And it orders a review of waterways, potentially to transfer ownership to the state.
That sounds complex. Land ownership in Alaska is famously complicated.
Very. Federal, state, native corporation lands. That's a patchwork with a long history.
There was one specific denial mentioned in the source.
Yeah.
An indigenous sacred site.
Yes, very specific. The order directs the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to deny a pending request to establish an indigenous sacred site within the ANWR coastal plain.
Wow, okay, that's direct.
And finally, for Interior, it directs the Secretary, along with the Secretary of Defense, to assess what's needed to boost energy development and export.
Including the pipeline.
Yes, specifically mentioning the Trans-Alaska Pipeline System, TAPS, and its right-of-way as critical national energy infrastructure, emphasizing its long-term viability. It connects back to that national security theme again.
It's not just Interior, though. Other agencies get directives, too.
That's right. Agriculture, Army, Commerce.
What's Agriculture told to do?
The Secretary of Agriculture is told to put a temporary hold and review on a January 2023 rule concerning the roadless area conservation policy on national forests in Alaska.
Similar reasoning. Legal concerns.
Citing similar reasons, yes, alleged legal deficiencies, public interest, and again, reinstate an older rule, this one from October 2020.
In the Army and Commerce.
The Army Corps of Engineers and the Secretary of Commerce are given a general directive, review and rescind actions that hinder critical projects in Alaska. And the Army is also specifically told to assist the governor, if requested, with clearing and maintaining transportation infrastructure. Within legal limits, of course.
That is an incredible amount of detail. Specific dates, specific documents. It really shows how policy shifts work on the ground, or, well, on paper.
It does. It's about changing the specific rules and guidance documents that direct agency actions.
The order wraps up with some general provisions too, right? Section 4.
Yes, some standard clauses. It clarifies it doesn't override basic agency authority or budget functions. It has to follow existing law, depend on funding.
And it doesn't create new rights to sue.
Exactly. It explicitly says it doesn't create any new enforceable rights against the government. Pretty standard legal language for these kinds of orders.
Okay, so let's pull this all together. We've gone through this executive order piece by piece. What does it really mean for you, the listener?
Well, based only on the source document, it signals a really significant policy shift, a deliberate turn towards ramping up resource extraction in Alaska.
The stated goals are economic growth, jobs, energy prices, national security.
Right. Those are the stated aims: boosting the economy, creating jobs, maybe impacting energy supply and cost, strengthening security through domestic resources.
But getting there, according to this order, involves rolling back recent policies related to environmental protection, land management.
Exactly. And specifically in controversial areas like ANWR and MPRA, plus changes to rules about infrastructure, roads, hunting, trapping, things that directly impact people living and working in Alaska, including Native communities.
So the order is essentially a roadmap from this administration.
It is. It lays out the specific bureaucratic steps: cancel this rule, reinstate that one, review this decision, deny that request across multiple agencies, all aimed at achieving that goal of unleashing Alaska's resource potential.
This deep dive really highlights the level of detail involved in these policy directives, down to specific dates on old documents being brought back. It paints a clear picture of a focused push for resource development.
It certainly does. And it leaves you thinking about that inherent tension, doesn't it? The balance between national economic goals, security goals, and then the environmental side, the local impacts, traditional land uses. Those themes run right underneath the surface of all these specific directives.
Absolutely. A fascinating and complex look at policy in action. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the Unleashing Alaska's Extraordinary Resource Potential Executive Order. We hope breaking down the source like this gives you a clearer picture of its stated aims and the actions it mandates.
It's a lot to digest.
It definitely is. And here's something to think about. We saw how this order reverses very recent policies and brings back much older ones. What does that kind of back and forth policy environment tell you about the challenge of achieving long-term, stable management for lands and resources in a place as complex and vital as Alaska?
A question with no easy answers.
Indeed. We encourage you to keep digging and exploring these topics. Until next time.